my life, all you ever talk about is how you're building this business and you put in all this time and you're away from our family so much, like, because we're going to have this different existence where we spend more time together and we create more memories, something unique. When's that day going to come? What really mattered to me in my life was that relationship with my daughter, with those relationships with my kids, was living that portion of my life without regrets. And so I recognized right then and there that my priorities were wrong.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to Go Live. I'm your host, Joshua Scott. Guys, this is episode 22, and I've got I say this every time, a good friend on, the Deuces, the 22.
Deuces.
But I got a good friend. I consider you a good friend, and we've met once, but just really enjoyed that conversation. Guys, this is Eric Roman. Eric, say what's up to everybody.
Hey, Josh, and what's up, everybody? And by the way, bud, listen, like, we are really good friends. It's one of those things, like, when you connect really naturally with people, and we have so many shared acquaintances, I feel like we're in a relationship. We just don't ever hang out. So I'm totally cool with that if you're cool with keeping it that way.
I totally am. And honestly, we were just chatting before this. I said, look, part of this is selfish on my end because I wanted to catch up with you. You got a new project I wanted to hear about. And I'm like, well, instead of just doing a phone call, like, why don't we just record the whole thing?
Yeah, I think that technically we're like, this is called shooting from the hip or broing down. I don't know which one of this technically is, but so people are just going to have to watch our relationship continue to unfold.
Yeah. Now, first things first, man. I'm admiring the beard and the hair, and I know you moved here to the mountains. Is that mountains? Is it COVID? Like, where are we at?
Yeah, a lot of people have been asking about this weird new style. Like, people that knew the previous iteration of Eric Roman, that was like this really clean cut, like, military looking preppy guy. But the new style is technically a combination of both. It's called Mountain COVID. I'm branding it right now. And so this is actually the perfect guy to talk to brand Mountain COVID. Yeah. But, like, what I'm going for a little bit with the hair and with the beard is just a little bit of, like, I give less of a crap than I used to give, like, and what my body's saying. I rarely introduce my skin to shirts with collars anymore. It's like mostly t-shirts, and like, we won't even talk about what's going on below the camera. So like, it's, it's a new thing. And I'll be honest, like, it's actually about transitions and changes in life, Josh. Like, it's actually a very intentional sort of thing. Like, it's an external representation of an internal shift. And sometimes it's nice to be able to have that. Like, my family senses it. They say stuff like, Daddy, you don't wear nice shirts anymore. Do you even have nice shirts? And it's just me now. So, but thank you for noticing. Yeah. And I actually joke now that that the hair is becoming, it's kind of like Samson. This is where I'm going to derive my power from for the coming years. And so I can't cut it. And like, if somebody comes up and cuts a lock, I'm going to lose any power that I now build.
No, I love that Mountain COVID. That's amazing. What was interesting is I really buy into that. Like, last summer is when I started this beard. I never had one my entire life. I'm 43 now. So at year 42, I'm like, and basically we were on break, vacation for 2 weeks. And I was like, I don't feel like shaving, and I'm just going to see, like, what happens. I come back and I'm like, I kind of like it. And other people are like, yeah, we kind of like it. But it's weird, like, thinking about this last year with this and just even seeing photos and video of myself, it almost symbolizes something different. And I don't know what it is because it wasn't intentional, but you're kind of going, it's intentional, so I'm going to do this.
It's the exact same way. No, honestly, I went through the same thing. The beard's like, I think the beard is like 2.5, 3 years old. The hair is like 6 months old. So that's how long it took me to get, like, past the point of no return. But like, what you're saying is so true. So the beard was twofold. Number one, I honestly, I was so clean cut, I didn't even know I could grow a beard. Right. So it was a vacation. It showed up and I was like, whoa, this is cool. What now? And so that was like step one. But the other interesting thing is that people didn't recognize me at conferences and stuff like that anymore. And so you walk by, I'd say, hey, and they'd be like, yeah, whatever. Because then wait. Like, they give you that weird look, like, wait, is that you, Eric? Is that? I'm like, and so it was that difference. And I still have pictures in my house, like, people that only know bearded Eric come by and see pictures of, like, naked face Eric, and they're like, who is that that's married to your wife and has kids with her?
Yeah. No, it's weird because one of my team members was using a photo of me for something. I think it was on our new website. It was a social post, and I didn't have the beard. And they were like, well, this wasn't that long ago. It's fine. The picture is only like, 13 months old. And I was like, you either got to Photoshop a beard in or we got to find a new photo, because that's not Josh anymore.
No, actually, the last thing that I'll add about bearding, dude, like all my life, like when I was like a functional dentist, like sticking fingers in people's mouths, like patients were always like, oh, how old are you? You're not even old enough to be. I'm like, you know what? Shut up. Like I'm older than I look. And so interestingly, never happened after I grew the beard. Like I aged like 10 years when I grew the beard. So I'll take that. So whatever it takes to make me look more mature, and with maturity comes wisdom, right?
Yeah, I've always gotten that baby face type of thing, and the beard is, and the little gray patch right here. That you're right though. That solved it. Yeah. Hey man, look, you and I first met. It was actually last summer's. I mean, probably within 4 weeks of this time last summer, and we were down. My team was down on a project with Caroline's dentist. And we met, and so take me back. I mean, you're on a new project now. We're going to get into that, but take me back to Carolina's dentist and how that started. Just kind of some origin there.
Origin story, right?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know how far back you want to go. First off, just to establish, like, everything like comes together for a reason. Like you never know what the path is going to be. I never imagined that I'd end up in that part of North Carolina with my journey in life. And so like I could spend our whole hour talking about all the crazy events that led to it. Yeah. Life is about all the crazy events and the places we end up that weren't actually part of our original plan. That's been a lot of my message to other leaders right now in light of COVID. Like, COVID was just another thing that happened that nobody saw coming. My life is filled with those, right?
Yeah.
And so I ended up in Fayetteville, North Carolina, years ago. Caroline's Dentist is actually technically my second dental group. My first one was going amazing until it wasn't, and it blew up in a ball of smoke and regulatory lawsuits and all sorts of other crazy crap. And it ended with me lying on my pillow and crying myself to sleep at night, thinking I just ruined everything for my family and I lost everything that I'd spent this time building. And so that was step one. Caroline's Dentist was step two. So from the ashes rises the phoenix. And that was Carolina's Dentist. And, what I give thanks for, and the other thing I never anticipated was, meeting somebody that was an incredible business partner for me, and Clifton Cameron, who still is there running Carolina's Dentist now. And, that partnership was just really powerful because we had this incredible relationship where we challenged each other to be better constantly every day in so many different ways. It's they talk about how business relationships are more important functionally than marriages, really. And I would totally agree. And Clifton and I really, had the ability to be the other side of the puzzle for each other and to fit the places where each other had voids, right? And then challenge each other to grow. And so, over the course of a decade, being there, Caroline's Dentist was a 5-year journey from zero to about $40 million of dentistry per year that the company itself was doing. We built practices from scratch, but it was really about a culture, and the cool part, Josh, is you got to be there and experience what our people were like and what the relationships were like inside the company. As I look back on it, what I really see, I see a lot of incredible dentistry done. I mean, we actually changed the markets where we were operating and the behaviors, from what they looked like before we arrived, which is amazing. Yeah. But really at the end of the day, what I remember is the relationships with the people and the incredible growth that I got to watch other dentists, other team members, other executives go through on their own personal journey. And so, I can talk in more detail about anything else you want to go into, but the cool part for me too, I'm really thankful for my alignment right now in life. And, sometimes life pulls us away from actually the world and life have this tendency to want to pull us away from what matters most. And I recognized at some point that while I was grateful for where I was and what I'd accomplished and who I'd become, where I was there in Carolina's Dentist wasn't really a fulfillment of what I wanted for the rest of my life, for my children, where we wanted to live necessarily. Hence the reason I left North Carolina and I moved out west to the mountains. Now I'm in Salt Lake City, hiking every day and skiing and all sorts of other crazy crap that I never did. And, it was part of that inward recognition that I want to live my life without regrets. And then the other cool part is a lot of my team members over the years had said, Eric, you know, like, what your greatest gifts are. Like, in some senses, we love having you here, but like, you can satisfy and give a greater gift to the world, maybe doing other things than necessarily running this dental group now. Right. So, you know, it was transition.
What, and I'm glad you brought this up because I wanted to hit on this. You know, you led this large organization with a partner. Do you advise partnerships, and what did your guys' roles look like to make that work so well?
And you know what, like, I'll be totally straight. We just got lucky. Partnerships are really hard. Like, we didn't sit there and say, you know, like, put a lot of thought into it. I was a child when I created this partnership, right? Like, I was literally weeks outside of dental school, and I didn't know this guy from anyone else. He just was in the right spot at the right time. We were in a residency together, and we're like, hey, it fits. Like, let's get married. Yeah. And so, you know, I've learned a ton, and I teach a ton about partnerships. You know, you go into it eyes wide open, and partnerships are functionally like marriages in that there's a give and take in the way that it works. Like, we have to honor sometimes that we have to change for the sake of the partnership, and that there's some submission that goes into that, and that we trust that it still is for the greater good. So, you know, we went through a lot of iterations of what our roles were, like different roles. Heck, we tried to be, okay, let me tell you what a partnership isn't. Yeah. It's two people doing all the same crap. Like, it's like two bodies, but really one person, right? Yeah. Like, you know, somebody'd come over and ask me something, I'd be like, no. Then they'd go like, oh, I'll just go ask Clifton. And he'd be like, yeah. And then they'd come and ask him something. He'd say no. And then they'd come to me, and I'd say, yeah, that just didn't work. That's not the way that partnerships are supposed to look. And I really honor Clifton too, because like, as we went through it, like, we both had to make sacrifices and say, you know what, even though I like doing this, I'm going to step back and I'm going to let you do this, Eric. And you know, because we recognize we can't be sitting in the same seat. So, man, at the end of the day, like, we just got lucky. But I will also say that, you know, a lot of it was about like, we really shared a vision. We did really share a vision, and everything that I do in life is really based around vision, whether it's in my life or it's in business. And whenever Clifton and I had disagreements, it didn't matter, because we always went back to the vision. We're like, dude, like, we're both here for the same reason. What's the best way for us to solve this, you know? And so, like, it's really beautiful. It's really, really beautiful when you get the partnership piece right. But at the same time, like, I've done so much coaching for people that really struggle with the partnership piece. And man, I watch a ton of them fail. You know, what I always talk about now too is like, I actually build them to fail. Like, build your partnerships like with your exit strategy established up front, and like more clarity about what we really want. As humans, we really just aren't really good communicators. We typically aren't clear about what we're trying to get out of stuff. So, you know, like, long story short, how many hours do you want to talk today? Because like, if you want to go into if you want to go into partnerships, that's like soul searching, right?
Yeah, no, I know. I have a business partner as well, and I agree. I more often than I see them fail and not turn out right. At the same time, I personally believe it's a much better situation and setup for especially running a bigger company. Okay, so 0 to 40 million in 5 years. Yeah. That's fast. What are some keys to evolving in a fast-growing organization without getting stuck?
Whoa. Keys to evolving in a fast-moving organization without getting stuck. I'll take that topic for $200, please, Josh.
I'd imagine your role changed from all kinds of different stuff through that 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, you know, scaling fast. Like, first of all, dude, you got to just be ready to screw up. Like, I'll be honest about it. Like, you know, one of the things that in coaching I run into more than anything is that people are scared to make mistakes and not honor. And I'm like, I don't want to mess anything up. And you can't scale and you can't move at speed unless you're willing and able to screw up and learn from it and apply it, you know? But the second thing, I actually, before I would even say that, it really, what did I say before? I said vision. Everything in my life's vision, dude. I'm a visionary. Like, when I take visionary tests, it's like who I am, and it's like my blood. And everything comes down to what you're functionally trying to accomplish. And so it was not an accident that we did that. Like, it was a very well choreographed and well structured and well planned out process. It was super freaking intentional. And you have to be, the interesting thing is, like, you talk like numbers, like, gosh, like it's so amazing how the world likes to glorify numbers and fast growth and big growth of companies. You know, I say forget all that. You need to be building something that's in alignment with you, with your authenticity and what you want and where you belong. So like, a lot of people say, oh, I'd love to have a company that grew like that. Yeah, you would, but is it really a good fit? And would you be happy with what you have to sacrifice and what you're going to go through to get there, right? So if you think about it, to have that kind of growth cycle, so we made a decision with intention that this is what our company is going to look like and how fast we're going to grow. So that sets into motion all the other things that have to go in line with it, right? All of our financial problems were our own problems because of how we chose to grow. Like, just whenever we would get cash flow positive, we would open another practice and go cash flow negative again. And so like, we had this company that's generating all this freaking revenue and daddy ain't getting paid, right? Like, that's super scary. It's like these companies on Wall Street that's like I always joke about, like Spotify. Spotify loses like several $100 million per quarter, and yet they have a market cap of several $billion. It's like, how does that make sense? They ain't making no money, but they're worth all this money. That's how our dental group looked because of the way we chose to grow, right? Yeah. And so it's all just an order of operations. So we created those problems. And when you're trying to scale at that speed, like, you've got to solve stuff really fast. You've got to be prepared for what you run up against. You have to be well funded. Like, we had to have a lot of loans in the back end to be able to protect us for when the crap hit the fan. But I'll tell you, like, relative to what the real solution was, honestly, the greatest solution for us was when we actually introduced a real operating system into what we did, like a real set of rules of engagement, right? For years, our leadership of the company was like, what book did I read this week? Okay, now I'm going to go vomit everything I read. I see all the books behind you. Yeah. That to me says, look at all the stuff that you're vomiting on your team. Because that's what I did. I was like, hey, I read a book this week. Now here's what we're doing. And, you know, and my one of my teams called it like visionary whiplash, because like every time I'd read a book, they'd say, okay, we're all over here now. Then just before they did anything about it, I'd read another book and then we'd be all over this side. And it was just non-stop whiplash for our team. So when we got a real operating system, and like anybody that's heard any of my crap knows that I'm a huge fan of EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, made famous by Gino Wickman in his book Traction, right? Like, that was a massive solution for us. And that actually took what was functionally uncontrolled chaos and it made it into a truly controlled and really enjoyable chaos.
Okay. I don't think I've ever had anybody call my bookshelf intellectual vomit before, but now I'm gonna
Dude, like I'm like you. Like, it's like, you know, people always joke it's like I'm a monster and you've got to feed the beast. Like, I read 30-some books per year. Like, that's the best. I don't even read fiction because I feel like it's a waste of time. That's what movies are for. And it's like all nonfiction all the time, all self-improvement, all business, and it gets to be overwhelming. I would actually make an argument I've overconsumed.
Yeah, no, for sure. Now I know you, so a lot is from the outside, right? You see the Caroline's Dentist story, you see 0 to 40 in 5 years. And there's part of that looks easy. It looks romantic. It looks like the American dream, like all that. But I know you resist that idea of that. It was easy because there were very tough moments. Give me 1 or 2 specifically tough moments in that 5 years.
Again, this would be a 7-hour conversation because I can give you 100. You know, to your point, everybody always sees like the success and the outcomes and they want those things. And that's what we share in our social media world and in our stories. People rarely share like the fact that they're on their 19th marriage or that their kids don't know their name or that, you know, all the other stuff that's broken along the way. And that's the truth. And no offense, like I'm not making anybody wrong, but those two things go hand in hand. Our struggles and our successes are not separate and independent from each other. They are one. Yeah. And so we have to honor both of them. So let's talk about some of mine. Like, number one, like our businesses, I believe businesses, part of everything I teach is that businesses are designed to serve our personal goals and our ability to have an impact on the planet. We personally have to be in positions of abundance to provide our greatest value to Earth and to mankind, right? Through our business. So we functionally have to put ourselves and our outcomes first personally sometimes. And so for me, like I ended up with 5 kids, and yeah, I know how it happens, but we were just so busy building all these practices and everything. I just like didn't even know what was going on. And honestly, I didn't have much of a relationship with my kids. Like I would wake up before they would leave the house, or I would wake up and leave the house before they'd get up. And then I'd come home after they were already in bed. And do you know the strain that not only put on my marriage, and then, again, like thankfully I have freaking amazing kids, and they like would have engaging conversations with me and call me out and be like, Dad, you always say that you want us to have this really unique and incredible life. When are you going to do it? That's a lot of my story. My oldest daughter, who, at the time I exited Caroline's Nest, I think she was about 10 or 11. Like we had years where like I saw her on weekends. That was it. We had a weekend relationship for the most part. So that sucked. Other tough parts, dude, like we got our butts handed to us by hurricanes, and we got hit by hurricanes and had all of our practices shut down at a really horrible time when we had just opened a new practice, which meant we had no cash reserves. Yeah. And yet we still had payroll. And as everybody, you know what? We experienced a micro COVID situation before COVID was cool, right? Like, so we experienced this situation where, so the government says we're going to get emergency assistance. When, where, and what's that look like, right? What we learned, 4 years ago was that government assistance and stuff like that, it doesn't arrive in time, and it doesn't and nobody knows enough to be able to know how to do it. Like what everybody's gone through with PPP and all that stuff, which is still changing every single day. Right. We went through that years ago with hurricanes, and like we were literally hours away from not being able to make payroll inside our company. And that's when the crap really hits the fan, when you're sitting there and saying, wow, we are minutes away from not having enough money to continue forward. What do we do now? So we actually went through that cycle 2 or 3 times, honestly, over history of almost like minutes was the closest that we were. Like in the course of a day, if a check hadn't shown up, we were done. We had a couple other times that we were within a week of being relatively bankrupt.
Yeah. Gosh. Wow. So, yeah. I mean, obviously, Caroline's Dentist, you're there for 5 years. You helped build it, one of the founding owners. Obviously, it has a story that's yet to be told into the future. I mean, it's got a promising future. When did you know that your time was done? Was there a moment? Like, talk me through that.
Yeah, actually, so you know what? We referenced it. It was really cool. It was actually a really cool moment. So I learned in running a company that was full of millennial and post-millennial team members, 200 some post-millennials, right? Yeah. Unique group to work with, the future, but not the future that everybody wants right now. But I love it. And I learned that the same systems that we were using to create an incredible culture and gain traction in our company actually was really applicable inside my home as well with my young children. And so I started taking some of the systems from my business and applying them to my home. Like we ran EOS inside our home. And so I do some measure of performance review with my kids. And on my daughter's birthday, we were sitting in a Starbucks, and I asked the question, I'm like, how am I doing as your dad? What do you want more of? And what do you want less of? Right. And it was so sweet. And she's like, Daddy, like, I love you, and I love all of our time together. And as much as I'm closer with Mom, I feel like I'm getting to a point in my life where I need you more because of who you are. Like she was looking for leadership. Right. And so she said, but here's the thing, like all my life, all you ever talk about is how you're building this business and you put in all this time and you're away from our family so much, like, because we're going to have this different existence where we spend more time together and we create more memories, something unique. When's that day going to come? And I was like, wow. And I saw this flashback to all those years and all the visions. And here we were building this incredible company with its own story. And what I realized is that what really mattered to me in my life was that relationship with my daughter, with those relationships with my kids, was living that portion of my life without regrets. And so I recognized right then and there that my priorities were wrong.
No, I love that. I never even thought about that with your family as well. And I think it's interesting, man. Everybody has got these, whenever we look up to somebody, I call it this, this problem with icons or with people we look up to is there's always like the success or the behavior that we admire, but there's typically a price underneath that has to be paid as well. And I agree with you, like being honest about that, like those come hand in hand, but most of the time we just focus on the success or the behavior, but we never talk about the price that's being paid. Right. So I love that. Okay. So when we talk about transitions, most of the time we talk about it in a moment of time. Like I made an exit, I made this switch. The truth is transitions usually are a process. It goes on. Tell me like overall what this transition has looked like. How long, I mean, are you still in transition out? Does that come to a complete nice tie up bow? Like we're done. Where are you at right now?
Well, you think about it, number one, when I had that moment with my daughter, when I recognized that I was out of alignment with what mattered most to me, right? Like the first thing that I had to do is I had to really consider what it was going to mean to be in alignment. And you know what, like running companies like that can be functionally really profitable, but I had to draw a line because like there's always one of the lessons I've learned in life in spending so much time with other great leaders, there's always more money out there. Right? There's always more money to be had. And yet that's what we're all chasing. What I recognized is there wasn't always more time. And so I had to make that shift and sit there and say, I'm drawing a line. And it was really tough because a lot of the other partners in my business and, and brokers and stuff like that, like, Eric, if you just hang on longer, you're going to make more money. Like, no crap. And then if I hang on longer after that, I'll make more money. And then if I hang on longer after that, theoretically, I'll make more money.
Yeah.
And so I had to draw a line, and that was really tough. And then the next thing I had to do is I had to tell my partner, right? And that conversation with Clifton thought I was like, he thought I was doing drugs or something like that. He's like, what's going on? Like, where did this come from? I literally went in the next, week. And I told him, I'm like, hey, it's time for us to begin like a new chapter and a new transition. And it means me exiting. Right. And, that took 2 years, 2.5 years, probably from the moment I had that conversation until when it was all said and done. And part of that was because I love the business and I love my partner too. And we want to make sure that we do everything the right way, And so, and again, everything that I do in my life, like being a visionary, everything's intentional. So what we did is we said, well, here's a company where it's going. Here's where we were, like we're on this path. Now what I have to do is I have to choreograph like me transitioning out of it and keeping that path there still going. Because, one of the things we hope to do with companies, I wanted to build a self-sustaining, like self-operating organization, right? Like I don't want anybody, you know what? I didn't even need anybody to know that I existed functionally inside the company. Like the company was the thing that I wanted to give life to, not like me. Like, I don't want to say, hey, look at my company. Like, look at that wasn't what it was. I want people to see Caroline's Dentist, like, and what had been built there, it was independent of me. So that was a long process, 2.5 years to like go through the process of exiting. And, and so not easy. And, dude, super emotion filled. Like, what I functionally did is I was a child I had given birth to, right? Like that was my baby. And you looked at all the time I'd put into it. Like I had to get rid of one of my children and like kind of give them off for somebody else to raise them from now on.
Yeah.
Not cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh. Well, man, lots of people on here. Mike Price is on here. Alyssa Kiefer says, Eric, switch to the good network.
Yeah, I got it.
Trent Redford's on. Josie's on. Hey, what's up? Michael Nelson says, two great minds. Derek Blank. Scott Mayo. Gosh, Michael Nelson. Shamik. Emma's on here. She's actually complimenting my bookshelf. So I know you called it intellectual vomit. Emma's digging it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with her.
Yeah, my bookshelves are bigger than yours, buddy. So listen, there's nobody with. I'll go toe to toe with anybody on consuming high volumes of intellectual vomit. Like I'm the vomit king. I'm filled with more crap than anyone on earth.
Well, so tell me about this season of your life, man. What are some of the projects you guys moved to Salt Lake City? You're up in the mountains now. What are some of the new projects you have going on?
Well, the last thing you want to do is make a big transition and then not honor the original intention. And so the first season was honestly about like very much getting to restructure my relationships with my family and everything that I was doing in my personal life, right? And so it was about creating new cadences and new systems. And that took a while. That was not easy, dude, for somebody that's gone into an office like every day for so long. Like everybody just went through with working from home with COVID. That can be a freaking nightmare. You know, it's like, get out of my office, stop, like, don't touch my, no. And like, I got to the point where I almost enjoy when kids come in the middle of important meetings. I'm like, yeah, you know, it just breaks the tension a little bit. So like my dog is literally licking my foot right now. So I had to get used to that new life and create new, and I was intentional about not wanting to ever make the same mistake again, Josh. Like that was not something that I was willing to do, right? Living a life without regrets means I recognize I was making some stuff that was going to be regretted at some point. Can't do it again. Like, so how do I create that alignment? Now it's also about like, you know, we talk in like the concept of like an EOS entrepreneurial system. A newer concept they introduced was really about EOS life. And it's about like, it's truly about like doing things that you're passionate about on a daily basis. So living your passion, not the like 50% of the stuff I enjoy and I'm passionate about and 50% crap that I don't enjoy. This is like 80 to 100% stuff I love. Doing it with people you love being around. And you know the difference between being around people that like kind of sap your energy versus people that fuel you, right?
Yeah.
And then being compensated appropriately, having an impact, like creating an indelible impact on everything that you do in the world, and doing all those things so that you have time to do the other things you love, right? Like that's actually my new purview in life. So, you know, I've been doing a lot of stupid and crazy things and trying all sorts of new stuff since I exited last year. I've been sharing, but like really part of my unique ability is the ability to share, like, and help other people maybe shift their mindset and realize, you know, where they might not be in alignment with their own true self. And so, I've been sharing as a coach, doing a lot of coaching. I've been learning a new world of, investments and dabbling in, you know, in the software industry a little bit and some other crazy stuff like that. And now, you know, kind of funny, it's like the more that you step away from something, the more you realize what you had right. And what I realized that we did an incredible job of at Carolina's Dentist was people and people and culture. And it's funny, like whenever I speak, it's what our conversations always come back to people and culture. And I realized there's no solution out there in the world right now for people that are trying to make the most of their teams. And actually, we just saw in the last weeks, this mentality, this like what's going on in the world, all the us versus them inside of companies and inside of everything. There's this war that we're stuck in, when the reality of what it is like we functionally just want to empower everybody to live their highest and best purpose, right? Like whatever the team member, like I want them, whether it's in my company or whether it's outside, how can I channel and empower them to live their highest and best purpose? And so now I get to build a company around that, you know, to take a lot of the systems and things like that I've refined over time and share them with the world.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I mean, you've been talking a lot about EOS. Hold on one second. I got it right here.
You going to get the book? Go get the book.
Go get the book, man. Look, right here. Also, just the Hawaiian shorts here underneath, just so you know.
Hey, again, I'm not going that far down. I can't show what's happening there. So
I know you were very intentionally holding the camera up as you were.
Did you see that? You got to see my ceiling walking through my house.
You got to see the ceiling.
Yeah.
But guys, this is a book right here, Traction. I found this kind of I don't even know who tipped me off. It was early last year. It was in a moment where we were growing fast, and I was grappling for like. I think I was in that place. Like there has to be a framework for this and how companies like do it. And came across this book. I'll have to really think about how I initially got turned on to this, but this was like life-giving reading it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. Obviously. I mean, like, and you know what's interesting? So do you know what Traction did for me in my life? Like all those books that are back there in the background for you, Josh, what Traction did is it said, listen, we're going to take the best of all those messages and we're going to simplify them and boil them down to a step-by-step system so that you can actually deal with it, right? Like, and that was like, it truly was a best of the best and yet simple, because everything else was so freaking complicated. It just finally gave me clarity. And you know what's amazing is like, that message about, how to empower teams and operations, or with their people, or with their marketing, or with their data analytics, it was functionally EOS and the traction that gave us the ability to take this message to now over 300 offices and help them differentiate who they are and transform their practices for the better. So everybody always asks me, Eric, what was the one thing? If there was one thing, like which consultant or functionally it was EOS, because it gave us the ability to manage everything else. It's the one ring to rule them all.
No, well said. I was going to say, I feel like it took so many of these books and just condensed them into, okay, here's how to actually live that out in a framework. Jen Kirkman says, hey there, EOS life is unique and such a joy. Michael Nelson says, those shorts. Thanks, Michael. Appreciate that. Alyssa says she's digging the shorts. Alyssa actually says it was Josie that introduced me to it. So she's given credit where it's due.
That's probably the case.
You guys got this new project, Joyful People. Is that bringing, so correct me and give me a little background on, but is it bringing this kind of EOS culture into dentistry?
It's funny. It's like everything's always an evolution, right? Like great ideas are great ideas, and then they kind of evolve to become maybe the products that best serve mankind when they're appropriately focused, right? And the Joyful People component was literally everything that we went through as we were in EOS. We had all these principles about how we wanted to care for our people, but there still wasn't a dedicated system that took the language and turned it into a step-by-step way for us to know, how do we meet with our team members? How do we establish, the right targets? How do we make decisions about promotion or whatever? Like, how do we cycle that? How do we pick the right people? And so functionally what Joyful People is it's that solution. It's literally a step-by-step solution that is based on the fact that HR, the whole concept of HR, my opinion is it's dead. And it's served the last 100 years just fine. But we're watching the problems with HR as they take place in our companies. Just this mentality of war, like employers versus employees, that doesn't work. That's not the future. That's not the future. And that's not what I want for my children. And that's what Joyful's really built around, is what do I want this process of being a team member to be for kids? One of the other interesting things that we encounter all the time is like, we glorify people that start their own businesses. But you know what? When you look at the real mindsets and the real mental makeup of most people, actually, we shouldn't necessarily be alone in our own business. The reason we run off to start our own businesses a lot of times is because we've been living in an unhealthy work environment. What humanity really needs are healthy businesses and healthy work environments to empower people to be their best and make the most of it. If we had that, dude, I recognize I went from being a company of 200 to being a company of 1 for 6 months. And I went freaking crazy. I recognized my fuel, my greatest ideas, and all of my joy came from interacting with people I love on a daily basis. I'm never going to be alone again. And so how do we take that message and channel that into organizations? Because dude, you know what I know, like if I had $1 for every time a dentist has said, it would be easy doing dentistry if it just wasn't for all these dang people. If I could do dentistry by myself, I'd be totally content. And dude, that's like, I understand because I was there and I probably said it my fair share of times. But what a really sad thing to say, because being a part of a community is really a gift. Having people aligned for a purpose and a vision is like, that's one of the greatest parts of being human. So that's what Joyful People is. Did I explain it in a way without explaining it?
Yeah, no, that's amazing.
That's called being Romanized. That's actually one of my gifts also.
Is that right? You got Romanized?
Yeah.
It's when you say that, I love that, because I've felt for so long, so many business owners, like I think that they go that route and they own a business mostly because they don't have to have this accountability to people, and they almost just isolate themselves. Like, it's my thing, I'll do what I want. And in the end, it's a very isolating, lonely path. And maybe they do get to do what they want, but I think the business suffers, their health suffers, their social relationships suffer. Figuring out how to run a business with people is so much of a better path.
Yes. And so now we aren't going to turn away from it. And not only that, like functionally again, like this is what the world really needs. And, you know, we have all these concepts, like, you know, so much of what we're doing too with Joyful People is really a movement. It's about opening people's eyes to the fact that the way that you've watched people manage for 100 years and the people support employees, that doesn't have to be the way that we do it from now on. Like, we can shift and we have the power to change what it means. Like, we always joke about what's everybody trying to accomplish right now in the HR world. Everything's about engagement. Or excuse me, about engagement for retention, right? We want employee retention. Dude, what's the definition of freaking retention? It's holding something in place that wants to move. In other words, like, Josh, do you want your kids to be retained in a business when they need to go somewhere else?
Right.
Hell no. Don't you dare retain my kids. Yeah. And so the reality of it is how do we help each individual like discover and cultivate their own passions and yet still make a contribution in the place that they are? And honestly, that's a lot of our story of what we did when we were at Carolina's Dentist. We actually built really great mechanisms for elevating people through a company until we realized that it was necessary for them to grow in a different direction, and then support, not saying, okay, you're out, you're dead to us, supporting them in their ability to journey that direction, right? Say, hey, we know you belong having your own practice. It's what you've always wanted. Oh yeah, I kind of do. How about if we help each other there instead of just like blindly not talking about it, you know, addressing the obvious.
Yeah. One of the things I tell new team members when we're kind of in our onboarding process for them and, you know, getting them onto the team is look, I don't presume that this is going to be your last job you ever have, right? Like, that's just unrealistic. I'm not trying to keep you here. At the same time, I hope this is one of the funnest, most enjoyable jobs you've ever had. Like, that's realistic, right? And I agree with you, man. That term HR, we're trying to get away from it because I hate that term. We actually call that part of our team, and we're still smaller by some means. So we don't have this big HR department, but we've started by calling it the talent team or the talent department, just to ascribe more value to really what that is, right? This is us, like, you know, creating an environment for talented people to work in. So,
dude, we have to, because the words that we use have power, right? And so, like, we called it people, we called it culture at different times. Like, I don't really care what the right word is, but resources, like, what do we do with our natural resources? Well, we mine them out of the earth, we fight over them, and we create wars over good resources. Then we burn that crap for monetary value, and we throw away the leftovers, right? Like, that's what we've learned to do with resources. And I'll tell you what, Josh, people are not resources anymore in that sense, right? Like, what they are, people are asking and they're saying, cultivate us, help to grow us, like, foster our development. And that's what's in the best interest of humanity, right? Like, really, if you think about it, I'm a visionary here, right? So, but the power is like, what if we really did truly elevate each person into their gifts, what they were created for? Every person has this unique set of experiences, genetic gifts, experiential gifts. And if we empower them and fuel them with passion, right, help them to discover it, like, we're unstoppable as mankind, right? We are truly, instead of sitting there, you know, what kills me, like, in dental offices, dude, we tell people, like, you're not valuable to us. You only make your value. You sit at the front desk, right? I can replace you with somebody in a heartbeat. Like, your value is $13 an hour. That's a human being. Like, that's a human being that has gifts and that has their own. The only decision between that person sitting at the front desk and the dentist who's making $200,000 a year is their choices that they've made. They were created in the exact same sense. We all came into the world the same way, right? And yet, we make different choices. Choices don't change our value as humans, right? And that's so much of this incredible conversation that's going on around the world right now too, is like, where is our value as humans? Because it's not about what we get paid.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh, you're starting this with some pretty cool people. Tell me about your team and who's joined it.
You know, it's not really my team. It's their company, not mine. Like, functionally, I just get to hang out with people that I've had relationships with for years. Functionally, Josie Sewell, like, this is her passion project. Like, and this is a lot of her idea. She has a gift for talking with people about how to create healthy teams. And she's been an implementer for EOS in so many businesses, and she has so much time under tension and experience in doing EOS inside the dental space in particular. And she just has a wealth of knowledge. It's unbeatable. And then you have this incredible marketing talent and Alyssa Kiefer, who like the marketing world knows because of everything that she's done in the DSO arena. And she's got such an incredible, there's not another human being like her. And but I guess we could say that about all human beings, but I'm gonna emphasize it with an exclamation point for Alyssa. But she has this ability. She's been in literally every role inside of a dental company, and like that breadth of vision and experience is really tough to match. Like she doesn't just say, here's what you need. She says, I lived what you're talking about. Here's what has to change. Right. Yeah. And so she's, she's just a pro with creating branding and imaging, and yet she understands the systems better than anybody. Yeah. And then I was blessed earlier this year to have Jen Kirkham, like to get to meet her, and she just like her ability to like be a producer and understand like the hearts of our industry. She's been working in this industry for so long, and she understands how to really build content that resonates with people, which is a really big deal. It's one thing to like try and teach stuff. It's another thing to actually have people learn. And she's so incredible about dialing that in. And then, like functionally when you have groups, you need people that are glue. Like that's part of building teams too. And so for that team, like, we have Emma's actually in the chat. Like she's just so good with keeping everybody like on time and on place to make sure that people aren't screwing up their jobs. It's like an accountability piece. Mm-hmm. So this isn't really my team. I just get to sit here and talk about stuff and watch as they build a company that, that has legs and has the power to really change people's lives.
Yeah. Gosh, so many of those people I've had interactions with and really respect them. I mean, Josie, she was actually guest number 1 on this Go Live series. I mean, COVID hit and we knew, I was like, hey, let's start some type of live interactive, kind of program here. So she was guest number 1. And Josie and I, we've got a little bit of a competition, Eric. She actually, when it comes to speaking, she kicked my butt last year at Dentistry's Got Talent. She beat me. So we've kind of got this like little rivalry going back and forth, but, respect her a ton. And I think she's awesome.
Josh, just word of wisdom on that. Go ahead and succeed and accept the second position behind her, because you're not going to pass her. Like it's just like, I mean, again, like, I don't want to demotivate you at all, but like just know your place, baby.
No, that's probably good. She gets on stage and starts telling these stories, and it's just like the whole audience is in her hands.
Oh, absolutely. Like I can't even. I just start crying when she walks up now. I'm like, I'm done. It's like I give up.
The energy. We'll just start. Yeah.
Tears of joy. That's what it always is.
Yeah. Let me ask you. Do you? Really, my question, the way I formed it over here in my notes, is EOS applicable for all practices? Or is it more beneficial at a certain level? Because obviously you guys kind of ran into it at some certain threshold in the Carolinas dentists, like growth and progression, right? I came across it at a certain threshold. Even now, I would tell you, honestly, I think 70, 80%, like we're implementing or done a good job implementing. There's 20 to 30% where I'm like, it just doesn't feel like it fits just yet, but I feel like it's a growth size issue that at some point we're going to grow into that. Do you see that, or is it like what's your take on that?
So the party line is it's good anywhere. Like I don't think that there's a place where it doesn't fit, but the real issue is that like we have to have a perceived need. And one of the other EOS sanctioned books, Get a Grip, is more of an allegorical story. Yeah. And it's about when you hit the freaking ceiling. Like, okay. Like, all right, I got problems, but my problems aren't so bad that I can't deal with it. But like, we find EOS typically when we're trying to grow, and we're like, holy crap, I cannot get through this. I have to figure something out because I can't continue living life the way that I am. That was a turning point for me. Like I couldn't do it anymore. And so like, that's why I think that you see that there's a hurdle, like people reach a point. But one of the new things that's happening right now, like this new company is being built from inception, from 0 to 1, purely on an EOS platform. And it's really interesting to see that, like, there is no size, like there's nothing. So it's a pure EOS startup, and we're seeing a lot more of that. But really, EOS came in to save the day for so many companies that were struggling. There's $2 billion companies that are running purely on EOS right now too. So like, as a size range, they used to say they didn't really go past 100 million, but now they got $2 billion revenue companies that are doing it. So like, I don't really think that size of a company has anything to do with it anymore. But I will say what the big barrier is, and it's you, it's me, it's the leaders. And we have to be willing to submit. Like, it's not a game. It's not like, okay, I bought the book, I'm in, like, I really want to do it. Yeah. It's about submission as leaders. Like, if you want things to change, you have to change. Yeah. That's the reality of it. Because a lot of people, I mean, we've met a lot of teams that have failed in EOS implementation. And the reality was that it was more important for them to continue doing things the way they were doing them than it was for them to become what they need to become. So, you know, I mean, again, it's one solution. And, you know, and EOS is cool about too. They say, listen, there are many systems out there. There are many operating systems. The catch is you must choose and commit to just one, right? Like, it's, dude, like, the best example, it's like operating systems on computers, right? Like, yeah. I can't, like, my software doesn't work. The same software won't work on Mac and work on Windows. And that's because that's the operating system. It's the glue that ties everything together. So pick your freaking operating system.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh. See, man, I love talking to you. I mean, man, I feel like we haven't even really talked DSOs. We haven't really talked marketing. I wanted to kind of get your take on, you know, predictions for DSOs here, kind of post.
Well, we can start that. We can start that in the second round for the next hour or 2 hours. Like, wow, we just keep riffing.
I know. Give me, it's Friday night. Give me a little personal kind of thing here. It's Friday night, end of a long week. You're relaxing. What are you eating? What are you drinking?
Ooh, that's really good. So literally right now I am pounding kombucha, and I will say that actually we built out a in the midst of COVID, when everybody was giving out their free gifts to the world, we built a new normal video series just in talking about certain habits for performance and behavior. And there's a recipe in there for the Roman chino, right? Yeah. And so that is I'm a big fan of performance enhancement with superfood mushrooms. And so it is a mushroom-based coffee drink that is dairy-free and freaking delicious that I feel like gives me superpowers. So I'm probably drinking my evening Roman chino, okay. And some kombucha. What am I eating? Dude, like, I go through diet fads. Like it's you know, I mean, like, it's going out of style. Like, it's nonstop. And, you know, I'd been operating in ketosis for a while, really enjoyed it. Okay. But now I'm to this point where I'm like not convicting myself of when I eat things that I shouldn't. And so now I eat whatever the crap I want.
Okay.
So, I'm probably pounding some like teriyaki chicken right now, or a Shake Shack burger.
Gotcha. Okay. Eating whatever you want, not feeling, you know, convicted about it. Did you put on the Corona 10 in the last 3 months?
No, I will. You know what? Like, I've had to find other ways to avoid the Corona 10. So I've stayed pretty active, and that's like, you know, it's like actually it's behavior. It's behavior management. It's habit formation is, you know, so I had to create new habits that allowed me to not gain. I don't gain 10, I gain 40, like, is the way that I operate. So, and not only that, look at the hair, like
gaining 40, it's one of the two.
The hair has weight to it also. So I had to take that into account in all my formulas. But yeah, like Friday evenings right now for us, like, I'm so grateful for being in such a beautiful space here out in Salt Lake. And we sit there on the lake in the evenings, and like the kids go kayaking around. The sunset turns the mountains orange. It's absolutely beautiful. And then the dog sits there too. So all these little kids kayaking, watching the sunset over the lake and the mountains, like, that's pretty tough to beat, Josh. Why don't you come hang out for a little bit, and then we can like bro down all day long. We can run all your lives from downstairs here. Come on.
I know we might have to do this. You know, it's interesting, man. My family's kind of converting a little bit. We've always grown up going, like, doing vacation. Grown up. My kids have grown up going on vacation to the beach, right?
Yep.
I mean, especially when they're young. I mean, I love just sitting by the beach with a book, just chilling out, whatever. This year, my wife and my son were like, we want to go to the mountains. me and my daughter were like, we want to go to the beach. So we're actually splitting it up and we're going both places here, and we're headed to Colorado actually, but
no regrets. I'll meet you there. Let's go. Like, hey, you just tell me when you're coming out skiing. We'll go jam up there in the mountains. We'll have like the Roman kids are all learning to ski. Like that was awesome. Watching 5 little kids like ski down like little ants, like weaving in and out of each other, going down the mountain. I was like crying in my goggles. Like, I've been waiting for this moment my whole life. It's like we were the same thing. We were beach people. I grew up in Florida. So, mountain existence, like we don't know any of the stuff. Like we're learning all the skills all at once. And it's really cool. It's like a diversity of education too, an environment. And what was funny is that it was actually my kids that made the decision to move out here. I was speaking at a program out here, I guess about a year ago, or I guess 2 years ago. And I flew my kids out to do some vacation time up in the mountains. And like when we were out there, they were like, I remember this view, this overlook, and it's like mountains in the distance. And it was just glorious and a perfect day. And one of my kids is like, Daddy, can we move out here someday? And I was like, really? And the other ones are like, yes, this would be amazing. And, the cool thing too is like, for some reason we always get tied up in where we are, but you can always go back, right? Like, why not take an opportunity or a chance to live something, Josh, that you guys have always been considering? Because like, just because I left North Carolina, we can always go back to North Carolina. Like, it's an option.
Yeah. No, gosh, I love that. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, where's the best place? Because I know you're not a big social media guy.
Not at all. Yeah. Social media, I consider myself antisocial, right? Like anti-social media, and again, like, we talked about this beforehand. Like, it's just, I just am too weak, and like, I go down rabbit holes on that stuff, and I have to protect myself by not consuming it. And so it's just me. That's my own personal conviction. So, it's like, email me, Eric@joyful.com, or excuse me, Eric at Joyful People. Full is FULL, Eric at joyfulpeople.com. And then, the other thing, like I got enough other places and I got enough people that know me. Like, you want to get a hold of me, just come and reach out. I can also reach me at Eric at DSO Coach, because I've been doing a lot of executive coaching for people that are leading dental groups or aspiring to lead dental groups. Right. And so, reach out to me directly. That's more fun that way. I wish, and you know what? Somebody right now, I bet you Alyssa in the background is building out a great social media profile for me so that it's easy to engage. But I just have to delegate that stuff because that's not me. But I do, just as a side point, Josh, like I recognize that that I have that it's a gift for me to share with people experiences and things like that. And so like anytime people want to reach out, I really would just love to get to know you and like find out more about your life.
Yeah. Well, I know you guys got a social profile set up for joyfulpeople.com. Or Joyful People at Instagram and Facebook. So you guys can also check those out. Yeah, man, I feel like, gosh, so many great people in the Salt Lake area. I'm on the fence of almost, I feel like I need to just go out for like a week every year and just kind of like, get around and see everybody. It's becoming this like epicenter of cool dental profession people.
It's so true. Honestly, that was like my selfish motivation for being out here. So not only is it a beautiful spot, but there was no greater place in the United States to combine like what's happening inside the dental industry. I mean, it was just like at every corner, it's like, I'm like, I find out about this really cool company. I'm like, oh, that company sounds awesome. It's like, oh yeah, they're around the corner from me. Life is so good. And it's a really awesome environment right now with the growth of businesses. Like they talk about it, like there's jobs galore waiting out here in Salt Lake City, which just isn't the case in a lot of other places. And so how can you, like, it's quality of life. Like you got great work, awesome companies, and an incredible, like, natural beauty. Like, oof, I'm living the dream, man. And I can fly nonstop anywhere I want to go.
That's true.
Yeah, that's hey, you know what? It's the little things in life that make me happy.
No, for sure. All right, man. Well, look, hey, I totally appreciate your time. I know we've all got a lot going on, but it was good catching up to you. We'll have to get together here soon. I'll figure that out. We'd love to connect.
Please. We're going to make our relationship less virtual and more real.
More. Yeah. Awesome. Well, hey, dude, thanks for being here so much. Guys, thanks for hanging out. So many comments today. I mean, gosh, this is probably honestly the most interacted one in real time I've had. I mean, there's probably 30, 40 comments on here. So most of it's Alyssa and Josie talking trash to me, but it's good.
Yeah. Well, that's one way to generate commentary, right?
Yeah. Right. Oh man.
Josh, I'm grateful for you, and I'm thankful for everything that Studio 88 does. And thank you again too for everything that you and Joanna did just in the midst of COVID. You guys really doubled down with what you've been doing, and don't think it's not noticed, even for somebody that's antisocial. You guys really doubled down in making sure that you were making an impact on, and it wasn't even just your customers, but on the community at large. So I know on behalf of all of us, thank you for what you guys did. You did an incredible job, and we really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, man. Look, I know we were talking beforehand. I mean, this has been, I admire your disconnect from social media. I've kind of been the opposite. I built a company based on social media, but you kind of get trapped into it. But when you go through seasons like this, and it's like so many people got the stage kind of removed and the audience removed from their voice, but that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be voices that step up and lead through this time. And so that was a conviction of ours, was this isn't just about a company. This is about being a voice in an industry that needs inspiration. And if we can just be a little bit of that, that'd be, great. So.
And one of the things I always challenge like my leaders and my teams to, we're always thinking about like, how can we have this broad reaching impact? Dude, Josh, one freaking person. It takes one person hearing your message. And you know what? It might not even be a message that you're presenting that's unique. Maybe you take something we talked about today and tomorrow you say it to somebody, but you don't even know who that person's going to be that it clicks with. But that one person that it impacts, the downstream effect in humanity can be unbelievable. Like you can indirectly right now, Josh, with the messages that you guys are presenting, you may be building the most incredible stories, not from your company, but from the companies that hear your message, right? Like you may be just through one person building the future of our industry, right? And like, why are we so worried about like what all the people think? It just takes one. So thank you for being willing to put yourself out there and make that impact.
Yeah. I love that. So true. All right, guys, we are out. Thanks for being a part of episode 22. Thanks for being here, dude. This was a great episode.
Let's do it again.
Let's
do it again.
Yeah.
All right. Bye, guys.
That was good. See ya.